Okay, one of our other tasks is going to be to write an equation for a line given some different types of information. And there's going to be three types, or three forms, if you will, of equations for lines. And the first one, and probably the most useful, I would have to say, personally, is point-slope form. Okay? And in general, it's going to be y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And when we're filling in the blanks here for a point-slope form equation, we just need three things. We need m, which is going to be our slope, and we also need a point. So any point on the line will do. So if we know that this point x1, y1, okay, goes through this line, or this line goes through it, I should say, okay, we can plug it in and fill in the blanks. Okay, so let's look at an example of a problem we might be asked to do. We might be given an equation like, or a set of information like m equals 5, and then the line goes to the point 2, negative 6. Okay? And our question is going to be, write that equation in point-slope form. Okay? So here's what I would do every time. I'd write down the general formula, okay, and then just fill in the blanks. So if they give you all the information, then that task is not that difficult. Okay? And in this particular case, they did give us all the information. They gave us a y-coordinate, they gave us the slope, and they gave us an x-coordinate. Okay? And the only thing we have to do with that is make sure we don't leave any minuses. So if we change that to y plus 6, and then x minus 2, then we're done. Okay, and again, it said, the directions would say, in this case, they would say leave it in point-slope form, or write it in point-slope form, so we're done. Don't try to solve it for y, because that's not point-slope form. It should look exactly like the initial given equation, which is here, just with all three blanks filled in. Okay. Questions so far? Okay. We might also be asked the same question if we were given, say, -7, -2, and 1, -6. Okay, if they told us that the point goes through those 2 points, and we're asked to write an equation in point-slope form, we can still start out by writing down the general formula. Okay. And then in terms of filling in blanks, we have two issues. Number one, we need a point, but they gave us 2, so how do we decide which point to use? Well, it's totally up to us. We can use either one. Okay. But the bigger issue is, what about the slope? Okay, because they didn't give us a slope this time, but if they give us 2 points, okay, we have means to find the slope, don't we? Okay. So that's what we should do first, is find the slope. So if we set up our slope formula over here on the side, and we go y2, -6, whoops, minus -2, and then 1 minus -7. Okay, fill in our blanks correctly with our y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1 on the bottom. If we go plus plus, we're going to get -4. Plus plus, we're going to get 8. And in that case, we'd get -1/2. Okay. So if we got -1/2, then the only other issue is we just have to decide which point to use. And again, it's totally up to us. You can use whichever one you want. So if you chose to use the first point, okay, you would have y plus 2, x plus 7, and that would be just fine as your answer. Okay. If you chose the other one, you would add y plus 6 equals -1/2, x minus 1. Okay. And that would be equally right. Okay. Both of those equations, okay, are the same. Questions so far? All right, now, working with other forms of lines, okay, is what we're going to get to next. Okay, the first other form, if you will, is going to be of the form ax plus by equals c, okay, which we call standard form. Okay. Or we also call it general form. Some books call it one, some call it the other. Your book generally uses general. Okay. Right. So one question might be, if we were to be asked either one of these questions, okay, I mean it's really the same question, right, the equation, but the different information we were given, okay, could we put it in one of these other forms? Well, my suggestion to you would be, do this first, okay, get it in point-slope form, and then just transform it to whatever other form they ask you for. Okay, so that's what I would do. So let's see how that would look. I'm gonna do it with this top one first. Okay, so I'm gonna start with my y plus 6 equals 5 times x minus 2. And if I want to put it in that general form, I'm going to first distribute. It's going to be step 1. Okay? And then notice in the general form we need x and y on the same side, and we need the constants on the right. So I would at that point go minus 5x minus 5x. And you can, if you'd like to, at the same time go minus 6 and minus 6. Okay, move both of those. And if we do that, we're going to wind up with negative 5x plus y equals negative 16. And that would be the same equation, but just in a different form. Okay. Okay. Now, one of the reasons why we might want to change it to this form, okay, is because it's easier in this form to find the x and y intercepts. And those are two important points for any line. Because if we were to put it in that form and put in 0 for x, okay, we'd wind up with y equals negative 16. And if we put a 0 in for y and divided by negative 5, we'd have 16/5. And those 2 points with 0 for x and 0 for y, those are the x and y intercepts for that line. So that's a reason why we would want to change it into that form. Okay? And to be honest, that's really probably the only good reason to put it in that form, okay, other than if they tell you you have to. Okay? All right. Now I want you to also see the math that's going to take to deal with one of these two. If we have the y plus 2, negative 1/2, x plus 7, we will once again distribute. Okay. But there's one other part to the general form that should be always true, is that there's no fractions. Okay. So like we learned yesterday, we'll multiply by the common denominator and get rid of the fractions, because we don't want any fractions if we're in general form. So if we do that, we're going to get 2y plus 4, negative x minus 7. If we multiply each piece by 2. And then from there, now we can add x and subtract 4. And wind up with x plus 2y equals negative 11. And that would be the general form of that line. Okay? And like I said, the only really good reason to do that would be so we can find the intercepts easily. Okay? Any questions so far? Okay. And then finally, for today, what we're going to look at is the third form of the equation for a line, and that's slope-intercept form. Okay, this is a useful form because if you look at the equation, you can see that the slope, okay, and this b value, the y-intercept, okay, you can see them right off the equation. Okay. So, if we were to, say, take 2 points, maybe given 2 points, okay, and again, knowing that we're trying to write the equation in the form y equals mx plus b, okay, say we're given the point 4, 2, and negative 3, 1. If we were to go slope first, since we have 2 points, we need a slope. 1 minus 2, negative 3 minus 4. We'd wind up with negative 1 over negative 7. So our slope would be 1/7. Negative divided by a negative. So we got the slope calculated. So essentially we have one blank filled in. Okay. And I'm going to show you 2 ways you can do this when we're dealing with the slope-intercept form. Okay, at this point, you can do that. You can plug in the slope that you find. Okay, and then you can take one of these 2 points, your choice, and plug them in for y and x, and then the only thing that would be left over is b. So you can do that if you want to. So if I put my 2 in here, and then I do the math on that, 4/7 plus b, and I subtract 4/7 from both sides. If I put 2 with a 7 on the bottom, it'd be 14/7. So 14/7 minus 4/7 would be 10/7. And from there, I could write the final answer, which is y equals 1/7 x plus 10/7. And that would be the slope-intercept form of that line. So that's one way. Or, if you wanted to, like I said earlier, you could start out by writing y minus 2, 1/7, x minus 4. You could use that same point in slope and put it in point slope form and then just change it by solving for y here. So let's see what would happen if we did that. First step, again, it would be distribute. And then if we add 2 to both sides, we get y equals 1/7 x plus 10/7, because again, it's the same as 14/7, that 2. So we've got a positive 14 and a negative 4, make positive 10. So again, which method here to get it in that form is better? It's up to you. Okay, whichever way you want to do it is totally fine. Okay, it's your choice. Questions so far?